No, I did not.
Yes, a lot of questions. Try to like custom house. He's done a lot of projects. I know it's.
Yes, sir, whenever you're ready. What's that? Oh, I'm going off the laptop, so.
Good evening and thank you for attending tonight's City Council meeting. For those who are attending remotely, the camera in the council chambers is set up to show those attending in person tonight. The platform we are using has a raise hand feature. You will notice a picture of a hand in the upper right hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you can click that button to be given your opportunity to address council. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Indivisible, liberty for all.
Kathy, call the roll, please.
Mayor Skelly,
Here.
Counselor Dilaba,
Here.
Counselor Fisher?
Here.
Counselor Kennedy? Counselor Powers?
Here.
Counselor Reese?
Here.
Counselor Scamperly? Quorum present.
I believe both Councilors Scamperly and Kennedy were asked to be excused. The consensus of council for excusal.
Yes,
Thank you.
we have two presentations tonight. First is the Ready Project update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. This evening, I'm happy to introduce Michael Manning, who you all have met before, who is going to give an overview of the city's Ready Project, which is the state's resiliency and economic development initiative as it pertains to the three combined projects in the Morissette Greenbelt area. Michael Manning is from Ramble Engineers, who have been working with us since 2019, when we were actually experiencing the flooding event. We are currently at about 60% design. We're gearing up to be able to submit our permit applications, and we now have detailed budgets. And those are the last steps that we need in order for us to enter into a grant disbursement agreement with New York State to be able to begin receipt of Ready funds. So with that, I will introduce Michael and his team, and both he and I will be happy to answer questions after the presentation.
Mr. Manning, this is Kathy, the city clerk. We can't hear you, sir. It appears you are self-muted. Still no audio, sir.
Does this work now?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Okay. Do I have presentation mode?
I can certainly give that to you if you'd like.
Okay.
You'll have to return it back. I'm gonna make you an organizer so you can share your screen, and you'll just have to give it back to me when you're finished, okay?
Okay. Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, so here we go. Can everybody see this presentation?
I believe you have to share your screen, sir.
Okay.
The panel, which should be
Yep.
on the right hand side. Okay.
Okay. Okay. It does not want to share. I apologize here.
It doesn't give you the option, the fourth button down, the third under the red arrow.
Excuse me, I see a sharing function, and there's a show screen, stop, and then there's it does not give me the it doesn't light up. I apologize for that. But everybody has the council should have the documents in front of you, so I don't want to delay things any further here, so we can go from those if you'd like. We'll just sort it out. In front of you are two renderings. There's a plan view on the first page, and then in the second page are some sections and some photos, renderings of the proposed improvements for what we call the Dubisky Park project. As Andrea noted, there's three Ready projects combined into one. And so if you don't mind, I'll just kind of go through this graphic from we'll call from west to east along the river. So on the left side, on the west side, there's you'll notice that there's some proposed riprap along the just west of the Greenbelt Boat Launch. And then moving along to the east, you'll see the municipal marina and a municipal pier in the marina. So there's several improvements that take place there. The first being we're going to repair the culvert that's underneath the pier, so that water will flow better from the river into the marina. And then moving out onto the pier itself, the project includes raising the gazebo. And then the big bulk of the work along the pier is to install sheet piling on the riverside, as well as raising the walking surface of the pier. I'll just kind of go through some of the costs here as we go through this quickly. The work at the municipal marina is estimated to cost about $1,080,000. And then on and then moving to the east, we'll get to the city dock area. The improvements of the city dock consist of modifications to the existing sheet piling and horizontal support, so that the sheet piling is more resilient and will last several decades. And then also replacing the fenders and the moorings, so that that dock can be used better for boats and boats of varying sizes. And then moving to, and then the overall total for that, I think I mentioned was, that's $1,080,000. I'll back up the municipal pier and marina, that totals $2,150,000. So my apologies there. Moving to the east, there's a nature-based sill shoreline feature. Through these ready projects, we like to mix up the improvements to include as many of the green improvements as we can. So in that area, there's a nature-based sill protection identified. The cost for that's about $130,000, and the riprap improvements are about $120,000. So I noted the riprap earlier. That also includes the area on the land side of the municipal marina there. Also moving forward here, moving into the park area, the improvement for the demolition, the earthwork, pavements, curbing, sidewalk, miscellaneous, that's about $2.38 million for that inclusive. And then rounding out the improvements that we would consider the core ready resilience improvements are utility work in that area. And that utility includes storm and sanitary sewers, site lighting, and miscellaneous electric and potable water. And that's estimated at about $180,000. And I just want to note in these estimates that they are all-in estimates. That's construction, capital cost, soft cost, contingency of about 20% of this phase, and allowance moving forward into moving into construction. So just a couple notes there. Any questions so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Water levels were high in 2017 and 2019. Now they're incredibly low. I mean, this is so much money, and an if that the water levels will go up that high again. And the issue for me is, while we had high water, when we had high wind, the waves would break over the city dock. They would flood the road there. But the park itself never flooded. There wasn't a water issue there. I don't understand why we couldn't put the money into the concrete wall or something like that, and not spend millions on raising the level of the park. I just, it was just 2 years, and the only water that really flooded were waves. I mean, the water level, river level never went over the dock. It was just waves breaking over. And it flooded, all the street along there, along the dock, but it really never flooded out to all the other areas. I mean, if we raise the barrier along the edge of the dock, so the water doesn't break over in high levels and high winds, I mean, doesn't that serve the purpose? And we can take that, and save all that money and that investment unnecessarily.
Mayor. I got it, Michael.
Okay.
So what you see tonight is a compilation of our last work session. So what you're talking about is a completely different idea altogether, which is perfectly fine if we want to give them something else to go to the drawing board. But to ask them tonight to kind of quick scan and give you, can we save this or can we save that or can we do it different? There's nothing they're going to be able to comment on. So what you're looking at tonight is based on the last meeting that we had. They came here for and we were present. So again, if there's other ideas, because the costs are significant in this project, there's no question. We can certainly look at it. And I think of key importance to note here for Councilor Reish asked to be made clear on what our budget will cover. So there's about $6 million of the grant money was allocated or planned towards this portion of the project. So you can see there, I had them list those items called core resiliency improvements. These are the things that have to be done under the current plan that we have to meet the state and the federal government's intent for using this grant for that. Again, there certainly are lots of other options that could be looked at, I suspect, but this is what we discussed at the last meeting with them. So this is what they've broken down. So you see how far the grant money will go. And then you see in the next line, he'll review quickly is what the grant money won't cover. So again, I just think it's important we understand where we're at with the stage of design here. We've been in design a long time. And I don't know that every time we bring a proposal in, there'll be another idea, which again is fine. Just know that we're well moved down the road of where we ought to be.
Well, then on to the design, we had talked about from the boat launch over to the Davinsky Center. We had talked about using large rocks, and it would be placed as a step, so people could, rather than have riprap, people could go down them and dip their toe in the water, closer to enjoying the water, even if it's just a little bit. But I don't see that in there.
So again, we did talk about it, but I tried to make sure that they presented this time was what is in our budget. Everything beyond this will exceed our budget, and it'll be more money we have to figure out a way to allocate to it.
We also talked about taking out the floating dock.
Yep.
It's a substantial amount of money, and looking to put along the mouth of the Oskaloosa, on the other side of.
Yeah, they're not part of the design. It's listed as an option item way down. It's not included in the core resilience. Yep.
But we don't know the cost differential between the riprap and the larger rocks that he's referring to.
More.
It could be a cost savings.
It's not a cost savings.
How much more?
They told me it would be more, so I didn't have them complete the work for it, because we're talking somewhere between 250 and 500 more. It's a lot bigger rock. It's a lot more effort.
So
yeah, there's lots of options we can do. So you see now where we are with costs. I mean, we've hit some bad luck here. There's no doubt about it. The estimates have gone up. I mean, post-COVID, everything has gone up. The state is not going to go back and retool the amount of money they're going to give us based on the cost of business going up, and that's unfortunate, but that's not going to occur. So trying to keep this project within budget is now becoming a significant challenge without a doubt.
So we're $2 million short on this project, and we're also $2 million short on the press.
No, we're about $500,000 short on the crest.
Yeah.
And are we 2.3 million short, or if you take out the pavilion and the restrooms, we're 1.3?
So the pavilion and the restrooms would put us up to 8.3. Of the 6.3-ish million we have for this, 6 is allocated here, 2 is over on the other project. You've got 6 in grant money for this project. That's why you see the cut line there at 6.040.
So without the $1 million going toward the pavilion, because we applied for another grant,
Correct.
the total estimated project cost is 7.3 million,
Correct.
and we have 6.3, including our 300,000 in local match.
Correct.
We're $1 million short
Correct.
without the pavilion. What is the main cost for the municipal pier and marina improvements? I mean, that's the biggest, 2.1 million. What's the big ticket item there?
Michael, do you want to jump in there? What's the bulk of the 2.1 million? I mean, I know a lot of it's just the work. It's the earthwork of the project, but you want to fill in the details for that?
Yeah, absolutely. At the municipal pier, the bulk of the project cost is associated with the steel sheeting, the steel sheet pile on the riverside of the pier. And that is, that's about half of that overall cost right there, because the pile's fairly deep.
And are you talking about new sheet piles, and so the old ones are past their useful life?
There is no sheet pile on the riverside. There is sheet piling on the marina side. So what the project would do is the new pile and the existing piles will be tied together for additional stability.
And that's necessary. It has to be done.
That was one of the city's primary requests in 2019 going into the request for READY funding. So
But I'm asking the engineer if it's necessary or not.
So the question of whether it's necessary is really a question for the funder at this point. Things like the pavilion were easily isolated and removed from the overall project because the site amenities, the pavilion specifically, isn't there now and wouldn't therefore be removed as part of the required resiliency measures. The sheet pile on the north side of the boardwalk was one of the things that the city requested through the community outreach meetings that essentially was what was funded. So we would have to request a scope of work change before that could be removed. It isn't to say that it couldn't be removed. And obviously we would have to have the engineers look at potentially additional riprap, but the sheet pile itself is one of those critical path items that is embedded in the scope of work that's been presently approved by the state of New York.
Right, and I just wanted to know from the engineer if it's necessary. Is the shoreline in that bad a condition that we have to do that?
One of the benefits of the sheet pile is that if there were ever to be dredging in front of the pier, the sheet pile would support the pier itself so that the dredging could take place.
Dredging was taken out, right? New York State is not going to dredge there. Correct?
They are dredging just to the west because based on their current bathymetric studies, they determined it didn't need additional dredging. The other benefit of the sheet pile wall, and again, one of the economic development portions of the project was that even if it didn't make it in through the bidding process, the sheet pile would set the city up to be able to have additional transient docking at a point in the future that is not presently available or wouldn't be available in the future if we just continue to have riprap on the northern side. So, and again, to Mr. Jelly's point, the docking, it was made clear that the council was not interested in pursuing that because of the budget numbers. And so we've just been kind of carrying that number along so you can see it and planning for it. But it isn't necessarily something that we're planning to do, and that's why it's in a separate category on your budget table. But the sheet piling would also set us up to have that 5, 10, 20 years in the future if the city had that demand or desire.
And how much is the city dock and the Morissette Park elevations being raised?
2 feet.
Be-
2 feet.
It varies. It varies throughout the park. Right at the adjacent to the river, the elevation is increasing just slightly by, I don't have the exact number in front of me here, but it's about a half foot or so. But then moving inland, it does vary a little bit. There are some stormwater features and some depressions to allow for rain gardens and inflow of stormwater.
Generally, the elevation in the park will be increased to 250. And I believe the ordinary high water mark is 247. I think 247.7.
You're close to the historic high water is 247.7. So that's, for the most part, the design standard that we follow. Ordinary high water level as confirmed by the Corps is slightly less than that. It's at 246.4. But that does not account for any wave action. As noted earlier, that was something that was observed earlier.
So at the outset, maybe just to kind of put this in perspective, when the READY announcements were made in the fall of 2019, the funding level was 95% of estimated costs with a local share of 5%. If we did everything here, including the pavilion under READY, which as we've discussed isn't necessarily what we're doing, the cost share breaks down to 72% state and the resulting just over 25% city share. So it's, the question ultimately for council is that a good benefit to the city? Alternatively, and I think it is pretty clear from the way your budget breaks it down, the core resiliency measures are essentially what we get to with the grant funding at the 95.5, which is the quote unquote kind of minimum that we're going to get to. That's the basic requirement, is that we have at least a 5% cost share. Now we can still look for federal or private grants to offset our 5% match. There's nothing that prohibits us from doing that. So the core resiliency measures account for the $6 million in grant funding that has been allocated to the city for this project. Whether or not we choose to add back in some of the site amenities that we presently have, the playground, the tennis courts, a pavilion, additional amenities, landscaping, lighting, etc., those bring the project to either 8.3 or 7.3, depending how you look at it. So we do have an application right now pending that we just submitted on July 30th through New York State Parks for the construction of the pavilion. We have discussed removing the pavilion with all of the state agencies that are involved in the city's READY project, which is Department of State and DASNY specifically, although we've also discussed it with DEC and OGS. And there's nothing that would detrimentally impact our funding level or require a formal scope of work change by removing the pavilion. So we felt pretty comfortable submitting a separate application to fund the pavilion apart from READY.
$720,000 playground. It's a lot.
As Mr. Manning stated, the costs that are shown here in this table in front of you are all in costs. Essentially, this is the equivalent size and scale of a brand new playground to what we have now. It's certainly, decreasing the scale and size of the playground is an option that the council and the community could discuss. Right now, on the back side of the plan, there's, and up on the screen, although it's quite small, you can see sort of the concept, which is to have a freighter style, much more kind of futuristic park with a solid surface instead of the mulch, which is definitely a more expensive cost up front, but it does require much less maintenance over the long-term life of the playground. So,
Is that shredded tires?
Michael, I'm not sure if you or Sarah can speak to what the material of the solid surface playground is.
Oh, I don't hear Sarah, so I'll just dive in. It's a poured rubberized material. And I can't confirm if it's exactly shredded up tire, but I know that it's a very safe material, and as Andrea noted, it is a little more costly, but it results in much less O&M over the long term. So it's kind of a toss up. A lot of people do go in this direction because there is less O&M over the long term.
Also, as we discussed at some of our recent council meetings, there are other ways that we could look at reducing the cost of items like the playground by kind of removing that from the overall contract, doing direct purchase from a playground vendor, possibly doing the installation in-house if we were able to do that. So this is sort of the high dollar projection for what the playground could cost, but there are several opportunities to look at decreasing that as a single item cost.
It's just a hard decision when you see water levels so low and so much money, so much financial responsibility also on the city.
So is this just an update? You're not looking for any kind of a vote or anything?
No, it's an update. And again, we need council to focus on the core resiliency items. If we need to meet again in work session to talk about where we are with it, but for the most part for right now, how we fund, how we get to tennis courts, playground, pavilion, additional landscaping, how we get to those is a next step. The process now for us is, are we moving forward with the core purpose of this grant, which is to make the shoreline and the surface more resilient during a flood. So if Mayor, for instance, what you just said is true, or a feeling of council, is this really worth it? We've had a couple of years of flooding, et cetera, et cetera. Those are just things we have to talk about. We are not going to get to spend this money on improving the park infinitum. It was not spec'd out for that. It was spec'd for core resiliency. And I think I told you when I first got involved with this project, it's always a sales pitch to a degree that happens with this, that you can potentially have additional money to do this and do that. But when you have a giant cost increase like we have now, all that discretionary money really is dried up. So it's down to, are we doing the essence of this? And then we continue to work on how do we fund, the next phases of the project, which are the improvements to Morissette Park. That again, if we take all this core work away, just say, hey, we don't want to do it, we don't think it's necessary, et cetera, fine, we're still on the hunt for the improvements that we want to make to Morissette Park. So with that, I'd just like to be able to close out. If there's any other questions on the core area that council wants to know, I'm certainly, we're ready to schedule another work session to talk about it, where we are, so that you can see everything like you've got it now in black and white. And also, this gives the public an update on where we are, moving through with this project.
Over in the little park area west of the boat launch, I would like to see the difference between the riprap versus the, what they did down at the Ford project. That looks really nice. And, these are significant investments, and our input ought to be taken on them, and as well as the public's. It's not just carte blanche, we vote for it here.
Well, there's no vote going on right now, and more importantly, the community was very much involved in this, just as much as the Fort Ready project was involved in the decisions that they made at theirs. And I agree with the city manager, going forward, if we're gonna have any kind of enhancements down there in the Greenbelt area, the Ready project is the first step in getting it done and maintaining our shorelines to be able to build the eventual pavilions and whatnot going forward.
Yeah, I like, I like the core improvements, and I like the docks going back the way they were, so you can park and face the river. You know, and as far as the playground, it is expensive, but that will be the showcase piece of that area, that park. And I don't think I've ever seen a playground that looked like anything like this thing. And if it's gonna last 25, 30 years, and, you know, as compared to Slivers and such, I think it should be, you know, we should find the money. As far as the pavilion goes and the restrooms, keep looking for grant money. I think that's the way to go. But I don't think them giving us the $6 million and us having to come up with 1.3 in order to keep pretty much do it while they're all there, it's going to get destroyed for a summer. I think it should just get going.
Anyone, anything else on this?
Mr. Manning? Angela, or Andrea, I'm sorry.
So the next step, there are a couple things I just want to highlight. We are gearing up for the permitting. We do have to apply for our permits before we can apply to the state of New York for our grant disbursement agreement. Once we have a grant disbursement agreement, we can actually start getting disbursements or reimbursements from the state of New York to help cover the engineering costs that we've incurred to date and we've had to fund out of our budget. We have looked at permitting as if we are doing the entire whole larger project. That way we can, if we're moving forward, that way we would get permits presumably for all of the items. And then if we chose not to do something, we would still have the time in which that permit was valid for to procure additional funds and go forward with that. That seems to be in keeping with what many other ready communities are doing and with the recommendation and support of the state. So it would cover all of the base or core improvements as well as anything that would have an impact on underwater lands or the bluff, I think is what the DEC refers to. So so that's the next step. And then following that is the actual formal public comment process, which we would recommend starting fairly soon. We'd like to do it this month. Given that COVID numbers are going up, we do think it would be beneficial to be able to offer a public open house style meeting that did allow for in-person participation so that the public could talk to staff, members of the engineering team, see the proposed drawings in person, and then we could collect their feedback, which is part of the ready requirements. So those are the two big next steps to keep this project, as well as the Maple City Trail and Oswegatchie Seawall project moving forward.
Our next presentation is a BOA update.
So I did print off for you a copy of the press release that we just published today on our website, which is just to promote the ogdensburgwaterfront.com, a website that we've developed in tandem with the request for proposals that the city presently has out for the Diamond National site, and Kathy has it pulled up here. This has some highlighted data from the RFP, some information on the community and the site, But more than that, it presents us with an opportunity for showcasing future sites. While the Diamond site is our most shovel-ready site, it is not our only site in Ogdensburg that is city-owned and potentially available for development. So it does offer us the ability to add sites in as we develop the marketing material necessary for them. For example, the former cheese plant sites are just one that comes to mind as being a property or a series of properties that we might want to highlight as we know more about them and as they become more shovel ready for development. So I would encourage everybody to take a look at the website, ogdensburgwaterfront.com. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to share them with the city manager or myself. We are accepting proposals until September 20th.
Have we received any proposals to date?
No, we haven't received any proposals today, although I really wouldn't expect that with the deadline so far out. We did just have our second steering committee meeting last week, and the consultant gave us an overview of the developers that they have reached out to. They've had follow-up conversations with. They've reached out to a very significant number. In fact, I did share that, but I'll make sure that I get it again to the city manager so that he can share it with members of council. If when you look at that, you think that someone has been overlooked, or you thought a developer was going to request an RFP and you don't see them on the list, please let us know and we'll make sure to reach out to them.
We do not have any public hearings tonight, so this brings us to personal appearance. This time, if anyone who's attending in person would like to address the council, please come down to the podium. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for being here. We've got a big crowd, and I hope we have a big crowd online as well. So greetings, shout out to all the teachers and school staff as they prepare for the upcoming school year. Thank you for what you do that includes tending to our children several hours of the day. The pandemic has taken its toll on you, most definitely, on the kids too. Studies show its effects taking place in real time. In many cases, the findings are daunting. So shout out to the youth in our city and surrounding communities. Many of the youth of Ogdensburg have a vested interest in the skate park. When it was moved a few weeks ago, we were told that the move was temporary for cleaning and maintenance. This new temporary area looks good aesthetically. Not being a skateboarder, I can't attest to its design, etc. I will say I hope it's safe for users as well as community with regard to liability, etc., and meet state or organizational regulations. As for its original location, pickleball, skate park not going back there. Instead, a pickleball court that was not discussed among council, let alone general population in the city, including our youth. In fact, certain person in the city complained to the media about being questioned about this very thing by a minority council member. I take issue with this blatant insubordination toward this council member in particular. Same person says, I am Ogdensburg, that everything goes through him. How can we do that when he's barely in his office? There appears to be much advantage of the remote working opportunity, especially since he now has a home in the city. Back to the pandemic, funds are being dispersed, and I hope you give great consideration to the small businesses and nonprofits in the city that are and were legally functioning before COVID-19 hit. We will appreciate all of the council's involvement in the plan for the 1 million and hope you listen carefully to the input of your constituents as well. Is it possible that you post the federal/state guidelines for use of this monies, which would facilitate discussion and consideration on our end? I'll look forward to it on the city's website. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Tooley. I live at 214 Hamilton Street. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening. First, I believe there's a flaw in your scheduling of summer meetings that should be addressed beginning in 2022. Looking at the August 2 special meeting agenda, to me, it was not a special meeting, but rather a previously unscheduled regular meeting. There's nothing special about the agenda as compared to other regular meetings of council. And as a special meeting, there's no opportunity for public comment. When setting City Council's meeting calendar for 2022, I encourage City Council to schedule 2 meetings in each month, including July and August. Thus, if you meet twice in a month, the public has an opportunity to address you in each meeting. If in any month you determine you do not need a second meeting, you can cancel it. Taking this action protects the opportunity for the public to address City Council in all meetings where regular or routine business is conducted. Next, during his presentation to City Council on August 2, the city manager suggested that one possible impact of the expected reduction in sales tax revenue in 2022 could be the reduction of the city police force from its current force of 23 to somewhere between 15 and 18. Like a possibility stated by Mayor Skelly a few weeks ago. After listening to the city controller's budget report for the first 6 months of 2021, I believe there is at least one other reasonable option to address the anticipated loss of sales tax revenue in 2022 that would not involve the reduction of city staff in any department. And that is the use of fund balance to balance the general fund budget next year. Let's look at a possible early calculation of what the city's fund balance might be at the end of the current year. In her 6-month budget report last week, the city controller stated sales tax revenue this year is up 25% versus 1 year ago. 1 year ago in 2020, the city received $4 million in sales tax revenue. Barring economic catastrophe in the remainder of this year, I think it possible the city could receive between $4.5 million and $5 million in sales tax revenue this year. The amount budgeted is $3.7 million. Thus, I think a sizable surplus in sales tax revenue is likely. Keeping this in mind, taking a simplified look at the potential 2022 general fund budget, I think a reasonable starting point in the current 2021 budget of $13.75 million, and that because the city is on track to underspend significantly its current budget this year. The city controller indicated that through June 30, only 43% of the general fund budget has been spent. So we have a sales tax revenue that's going to have a significant surplus, a significant under expenditure in the budget on the expense side. I think it's possible, if not likely, that the surplus in this year will equal or exceed the $1.4 million surplus earned in 2020, as reported last week. So let's take 1.2 million of that expected surplus this year and treat it as revenue next year to offset a possible 1.2 reduction in sales tax revenue. So why take this approach? I think it wise because it buys the city a year to determine the following. One, it allows the city to measure what its sales tax revenue will be in the first year preemption to get a better handle on this revenue when developing the 2023 budget. Next, it allows the city council and citizens time to lobby the state legislature in 2022 to get the additional 1% in sales tax revenue we seek. And we will be on our own in this lobbying effort. And as I said in the previous meeting, we will need your help to get citizen involvement in this endeavor. Third, it allows time to see if the city and St. Lawrence County might be able to come together to consolidate services in any of the areas listed by the city manager in his presentation on August 2. These areas included law enforcement, including dispatch, property tax collection, personnel and human resources, purchasing, and plowing. City Council has put a lot on the plate of the city manager and administration in the past 18 months, and time is needed to see if any of these bear fruit. I think it's important for the city to maintain stability in its services and in its labor force over the next 18 months to gather the information I detailed. Using fund balance in 2022 to cover the expected sales tax revenue reduction allows this. And finally, I note this proposal also suggests the 2021 tax rate is continued in 2022. I know some on council said a goal of significant tax rate reduction from years 2021 to 2024, but I suggest delaying for 1 year any significant decrease in the tax rate. I do not think it wise to adjust the main source of revenue in the general fund when there is uncertainty in what sales tax revenue will be next year. Thank you.
My name is Barb King from Ogdensburg. Skateboarders. Has anybody been down to see the new skateboard park? Anybody been down to see it? You have?
Yes.
Did you get out of the car and look at it?
No.
Okay. I
It's
was.
temporary.
Pardon?
It's a temporary park.
It's a temporary, dangerous, very dangerous park. If you got out of the car and looked, anybody would have inspected the work that was done, would see that it's put together with a whole bunch of mistakes that skateboards get caught on, screws that aren't screwed in, screws that are screwed to cracks that aren't holding anything. Go down with you, I'll go take it. I'll go show you. There's gaps. That wonderful parking lot that you put in, it's a driveway sealer. Maybe some research should have been done before we put that stuff down, because all it does is gum up your wheels on your skateboard and it makes it feel like you're skating on ice. Did anybody ask a skateboarder first? Did anybody maybe say, hey guys, we need to, do this? Could you give us some help, maybe some advice? No? Nobody? Okay. Because, I had to question it because I read something. It says in a news article, resurfaced pavement as a temporary skate park location, made repairs to damaged equipment. We'll discuss 3 possible permanent locations. Great. During the move, some of the equipment at the park was damaged. Yep. Since the move, the city has resurfaced the pavement at the new location and repaired the damaged equipment, according to the city manager. Oh. If that is repairing it, please don't ever touch anything again.
Let's have some more.
Because that is dangerous. We have skateboarders here. Look. And I'm sure they're going to speak. And I don't get it. I just don't get it. I'm sure there's a lot of other ones that don't. There are no bathrooms, no place but the Twin Bridges to get a drink. Go to the bathrooms. Pretty soon that place is going to say, no, this is not your bathroom. We're not going to keep it up. There's no lights down there, no supervision, no inspection of anything, nothing. Oh, and it's right beside a bar. Who thought of this? Who thought this was a good idea? My God, they're kids. Saturday afternoon, I was down there at 1 o'clock. There's 5 people at the skateboard park. 5. I go down by the pickleball court, whatever that is. Not a soul. Not a soul. Anytime I've ever gone by, not a soul around. Not very popular. The kids don't know where the park is. I'm afraid to tell them. I think going on a curb might be better than what they got down there. You guys need to get out of your chairs. Seriously, and include the people that are going to use this. I've got pictures. They have pictures. They have proof on their skateboards. That's all you need. Thanks for listening. I'll be back.
My name is Cody Jones and I reside in Ogdensburg, and I've come to talk about the skate park. That is my, and the skate park is my main concern. Not more or less for me, but for the kids. I've been skating since I was about 6 years old, and I can tell you, I have never seen the skate park in any better of a condition than it was when I had first moved up here. There has been no maintenance since the ramps were placed in '06. And unfortunately, a group of younger kids and just bad influences in general went down and destroyed it for the rest of us. Now, me and my friends, we have spent countless times, every single time going down there. We will pick up all the trash in the park. I brought down power drills so I can screw in some of the screws that were sticking out just to make it a little safer for the kids that use it. We've been trying to make sure everybody uses it when they go down there, that all the kids aren't like running all around and everything, because we don't want to see anybody get hurt. Yes, we know that there's a risk that happens when you get on a skateboard, when you get on a scooter. We are willing to take that risk, but there is a level of precautionary that you can have to use the park and not get as hurt as often. And as you can see on my skateboard, the wheels are covered in tar. This was skated today at around 1 o'clock, and we were permitted to ride on the park Wednesday, August 4th. And I can understand that it has been hot, so I can understand how the oil-based sealant hasn't dried up quite yet or set, but it's still been 5 days over the permitted date that we were allowed to ride this. And I've gone down there and I've seen the lips of the ramps stick up about 1 inch. The whole section by the stairs is dropped about 3 inches on one side, and it is completely cracked on the run up to where a skateboard wheel will get caught and you will get thrown up the stairs. And I'm telling you, nothing is scarier than a crunchy roll away or anything like that, because I can roll away on smooth pavement and get away with just a couple scrapes. But if you land on something that is so porous, it's just, you can do some damage. And I was in a motorcycle accident last year, so I know about road rash. I hit a deer coming back from Waddington, and I was in a full body bandage, and skateboarding has been my recovery. So this is a big part of my life, and it has consumed a big part and inspired me and multiple other people around me. And I feel like skateboarding can attract other people from Canada as well. And we can get many visitors from around the North Country, because we have the only skate park that is at least decent within 100 miles. I've traveled all the way to Vermont. I've gone to several different skate parks. The best one so far in the North Country that I have gone to has been Black Mamba in Syracuse. We were second, 100%. And when the relocation had happened, I would rather drive an hour away to Watertown and skate theirs with the vert ramps and the put together ramps made by the people there. It's unskateable. It's not safe. The ramps are beyond rigged because one of the banks, it's supposed to be completely straight to the ground with a little lip at the bottom, and it looks like a quarter because one of the braces had broken and it had cracked in half. They had screwed the board together. They had screwed the crack together and then screwed a 4x4 in place of it. And I have pictures of everything, the whole process of what has happened to the skate park. I don't feel comfortable having kids down there, even on scooters, because I've seen multiple kids down there and just fall right off and slide around. Like, you can't even turn. You can turn on the ramps, but you can't turn on the ground, and it's just too slippery. I just feel like the amount of money being put towards other things like a new playground. I 100% agree. Kids Kingdom needs to be refurbished at least. It is a hazard as well. But I feel like even $50,000 is a small chunk change for the skate park, and that can actually go a long way. And just do it right the first time so the citizens don't get hurt and we can all enjoy it together. And I feel if you were to go about it in a right way, you could even attract more business to your town and make this even better for the whole economy. And I completely disagree with it being next to a bar because I've already had interactions of people coming over highly intoxicated, wanting to ride my skateboard and put themselves in danger, which is completely wrong when you have 6-year-olds trying to learn how to go down ramps and they're scared. But you have to break that fear to move forward. And they can't do that when they have a bunch of idiots over there just sitting there drinking. It's not good. It's not a good place. And I can understand how sometimes the kids can be a little rowdy during Seaway at the skate park. That is beyond my control. I cannot raise your kids. However, all I know is every single time I have been down there, we have always treated it with respect, and we have always tried our best to keep it clean because we want what is best for everybody to use, not just us. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jordan Hooper, and obviously my concerns are about the skate park. All the issues with how it was poorly fixed. I have a daughter. I like seeing kids go down there. I don't want them skating on that because it's a hazard. You guys obviously didn't do any research for what materials should be used, and you just threw down what you thought would look good and called it done. I don't agree with that. If anything, you've only made it more hazardous for everyone that enjoys it regularly. I know I get injuries from skating all the time. That's my most recent one. There's no skate at your own risk sign. There's no sign down there for the skate park at all. If someone were to get hung up on one of those screws and fall, who do you think they're going to sue? The city. And parents don't want their children hurt. I don't want to see their children hurt because I like going down there all the time, and I'll help them learn and grow as a skater or whatever it is they're down there doing. But when you guys haphazardly put things back together and just say, oh, that's good, without it really being inspected, you guys are just causing more problems than you realize. And I'm pretty sure other people are going to start saying the same thing. So that's it for me.
Hello, my name is Robert Van Horn. Live in the city. Come down for just to talk about transparency. I don't think that there's a lot of things being talked about that are happening in the city. I think one of them is the pickleball court that I happen to notice. Recently started to try and get myself and my friends more included in what's going on in the city because we are the largest county in New York State and we are the only city in the county. That being said, I feel like recreation is a big thing that could pull people in from other areas. Maybe, I don't know, because of the transparency issue, I don't know what these 3 possible locations are. I don't know where they are. I've tried to look them up, but I don't know. Anyways, I believe that a recreation center could be good, somewhere where kids and adults alike could go and enjoy themselves. Something like rock climbing, or you watch TV, American Ninja Warrior, something like that, a ninja center. Just a gym for recreation in general. And then I just would like to thank you for everything that you guys do. And thank you for allowing me to speak.
How's it going? My name is Jace Gaines, and I also reside in the city. Just to hit on a few points that maybe I didn't hear mentioned. This year is one of the first years that skateboarding has been introduced to the Olympics. And that is a major thing for the world of skateboarding. A lot of people are getting more into it. It's being publicized a lot more around the world. And I just think that's something great that we need to more capitalize on, of maybe teaching our kids how to be a future Olympian one day, or, you know, just even giving them something halfway decent that's not going to, you know, cause injuries or anything. Even 5 to maybe 7 years ago, when nobody was really making comments on the skate park, it was just kind of sitting there. It was still in a busted position. I've had scars from nails sticking out of the ramps even back then. So for that 15-year-old skate park to be picked up and moved, it got completely destroyed, and there's not really any way to fix what's already been broken for so long. So any kind of, I don't know, fixed job isn't really kind of the solution, more than to maybe think about putting more money and more effort into the youth and something better that we could skate on for multiple years. So that's all I have to say today. Thank you.
Just a couple of things. 2 meetings ago, I stood here, and when the first article came out about the police department and the sales tax, and I made the comment to you, Mike, that you were holding the police department hostage over the sales tax. You sat right there and you looked right at me, just like you're doing now. And what did you say? Do you remember what you said? No, you didn't. You said, that is not true, Doug. Okay? Well, a couple of days after that, or a week after that, I read an article in the paper, okay, the states were cutting police department down to 15, 16. Also, if you gutted the fire department, there was an article in there about you're going to cut the DPW. You're going after the sewage treatment people. All right. So somebody's sitting here. Okay. You majority of people sitting here. Somebody's lying. Okay. Somebody lied about that. And it was right in public. Okay. Second thing, I really thought maybe I'd see a little leadership from you tonight and come out at the beginning of the meeting and apologize for the way our last meeting ended. For people making a face at you. That's not good leadership. All right. You call us people animals. All right. Well, I take a little exception to that. Okay. Maybe the face you're making at me right now, maybe we ought to have him removed tonight. Okay. But my point is, okay, and then when we come out and say the meeting was canceled in the interest of public safety, that's another lie. And you wonder why people come here and say things. You can shake your head all you want, because I witnessed you at many council meetings before the election. You were disruptive, okay, and you were disrespectful to people that were sitting there also.
Hi, how's it going? My name's Katie Lopez. I reside in Ogdensburg. I'm here to talk about the skateboard park, which is very important to a lot of people, clearly, and it's going to be repetitive, but I think it's important for everybody to stop the negative stigma around skateboarders, because it's not just 23-year-olds, it's not just 12-year-olds, it's younger people, and it's easy to say no or not mention the skateboard park when you're not looking people in the face, when you're commenting on Facebook and liking certain comments only. And I feel like I'm expecting a kid soon, and I think a child would have more interest towards a skateboard than pickleball, or towards other things, or bars, or, you know, other things that money is going towards. And I feel like it is important to think about the safety, and it is the city's responsibility to make a safe playground or a safe skateboard park. And what we heard was downsizing a kid's playground. We heard about how tires could be affected if the pavement in the new playground was, you know, established, but there was no concern about the skateboarders' wheels or any concern about what $300 skateboards or what equipment they have will be damaged. Like, there was no concern about anything in regards to skateboarding until the actual citizens of Ogdensburg were speaking up right now. And I just feel like it's important to, again, remove the negative stigma towards skateboarders because we have tattoos, because we're young, because people heard us cussing, when I've heard a lot worse from adults on Facebook, in person, in the 7 bars in town. And I feel like it's important to just turn the youth around and actually give them hope instead of trying to attract a different older audience or people who have more money or people who have different interests. Because again, it is an Olympic sport now, and there's just a lot of potential and future in the youth. That's all I have to say.
Good evening, Jennifer Stevenson. So a question I have, and I know it's not a question and answer period, is when is the last time that the rec commission met? I know that we've been without a rec director, so I'm not blaming the new person in the position, but the city still needs to go on. It was this council's decision not to have a rec director. This is where we needed the rec commission to talk about the possible movement of the skateboard park, the impact it would have, what the usage is. Is the usage higher at the skateboard park, or would it be higher as a pickleball court, or higher as a tennis court, or a mix of the two? So I would like to know that. I'd like to follow up tomorrow with our city manager to find out when was the last time that the rec commission met. If they're not meeting, it's time for them to meet. They were selected because they have the interest of the youth and the recreation of the city at heart. They were selected because they had certain technical aspects that they could bring to the table, certain interests that they could bring there. Those people are the experts in this and are supposed to be guiding council. And I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing decisions made without any guidance. We also used to get regular updates via email. They were alerts from the city. The only ones I seem to be getting lately are from modified planning board meetings. I think it would have behooved everyone to have that notification go out about the movement of the skateboard park and the update of the pickleball courts. I know that you put it on the mayor's Facebook page, but we need to have more of an official notice to this city. So I'm asking for the city manager's office to please use the tools that were given to the office and please start giving us more information through those updates. Thank you.
Anyone else? Now, if anyone is attending remotely, would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature.
The first individual is registered as Brian Mitchell, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. Appears your line is open.
Good evening. Just a couple comments. I've asked a few times for public updates, and I noticed we haven't had them. I've asked you this multiple times, Mr. Mayor. I see you're back on Facebook. Congratulations. Is there any way you can unblock me? I had no idea that people were playing pickleball when I'm blocked on Facebook. So, Mr. Mayor, will you please unblock me? Can I get an answer? That's what I thought. Next question. I see the city charter, the city manager must move within the city. The other day, I see in the North Country Now, he was ticketed for on his cell phone. The address still Tupper Lake. Is it possible to have our city manager move in the city of Ogdensburg, or should a ticket been issued for not changing his address? I'm sure I won't get an answer to that either, but I just want to make it public. Third thing, tonight, the after hours meeting. Could we go public with that so everybody knows that we're going to meet at Captain Bill's tonight? So that way the public can come with the concerns? Because this is obviously when everything's getting addressed and when all the decisions are made. So I think it would be nice if we could just invite the public tonight over to Pickering Street for the meeting. That's all I have. Thanks for the time.
I do not see any other hands raised.
And this brings us to correspondence. Do we have a correspondence? Ken?
We do not.
So next we have consent agenda. Its claims is enumerated in general fund warrant number 14-2021 in the amount of $2,111,120.10. And library warrant number 14-2021 in the amount of $17,795.08. And capital fund warrant number 14-2021 in the amount of $1,547,151.09. And community development warrant number 14-2021 in the amount of $120.98. And community renewal fund warrant number 14-2021 in the amount of $0 as audited, be and the same hereby are ordered paid. I so move.
I'll second it.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Skelly,
Yes?
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Powers. You're muted, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Reese,
Yes.
approved.
I make a motion to reappoint Mary Ann Narkovicius and Stephen Hawes to a 3-year term on the Augsburg Pride Beautification Commission. Terms to begin August 9th, 2021 and end December 31st, 2023. I so move.
I'll second it.
Okay, do I have a second? Kathy, would you call the roll?
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yeah.
approved.
This brings us to council action, items for council action. Our first item of business will be read by Director of Planning and Development, Andrea Smith.
So the resolution to approve the sale of surplus property following the July 14th, 2021 surplus property auction. Whereas the city of Ogdensburg has acquired the following parcel in accordance with property tax sale foreclosure proceedings, and whereas city staff have reviewed the parcel and find no conflict with the proposed sale having no infrastructure or known easements of public benefit. And whereas said parcel has been declared surplus by the city council on June 28th, 2021. And whereas all property sold by the city of Ogdensburg is as is and whereas by quitclaim deed, the city makes no warranty as to clear title or condition. And whereas all property within the city of Ogdensburg is subject to the provisions and enforcement of chapter 97, section 13, property maintenance. And whereas the sale of city property promotes the return of underutilized property to the tax roll for the greater public benefit in keeping with comprehensive planning goals. Now therefore be it resolved that the city council approves the following sale. Tax map number 58.022-15-14, 502 King Street. This is a non-conforming parcel in the city's moderate density residential zoning district, being 53 by 50. The minimum bid was established at $3,500 and the sale price was $3,500 by Marilyn and Michael Roberts. Be it further resolved that the listed buyers are financially responsible for all applicable St. Lawrence County filing fees. And be it further resolved that the sale of said city-owned real property shall be subject to the review and approval by the city attorney.
I'll move it.
I'll second it then. Any discussion? I'm glad to see the great job staff is doing. Property tax on tax. So, thank you.
Is there a point for about the property maintenance clause being in there?
Is there, I'm sorry, is there what?
Is there a significance or a point about the property maintenance requirement being in there?
We include that in all of the resolutions for the sale of city-owned property, just to, as a reminder that all property is subject to property maintenance law. Sometimes the properties are vacant with nothing on them. Sometimes they have buildings that may already be in code violation or not, but it's just a reminder to all buyers that properties are subject to property maintenance law.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
approved.
The next item of business will be read by City Manager Stephen Zelli.
A resolution to amend the 2021 budget to include the receipt of American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus Local Relief Recovery Funds. Whereas the city of Augsburg has been awarded an American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus Local Recovery Fund allocation in the amount of $1,066,004, and whereas $533.02 will be received in the 2021 fiscal year. And whereas these funds are to be used to mitigate the economic fallout of the coronavirus pandemic and to support communities and populations impacted by the pandemic. And whereas this emergency federal funding was not included in the 2021 budget, now therefore be it resolved that the city comptroller is authorized to amend the 2021 budget to include the receipt of $533,002 into federal aid revenue account A4089 and contingency contractual expenditures A1990.498 in the amount of $533,002.
I'll move it.
I'll second that. Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
I'd like to
Counselor
discuss. I'm sorry. Is there any discussion?
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. A couple of things here. I'm hearing from some of the youth in the related to the skateboard park. I'd like to make some suggestions and allocations. I think Mr. Jones, Cody Jones, might have asked for a small donation. I don't know how that would work with the American Rescue Act. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with any of the COVID pandemic. But outside of that, recognizing the article and the discussions after viewing the special meeting on the 2nd, I'd like to make a recommendation of a substantial amount of money donated to the Ogdensburg Boys and Girls Club. Recently, they received a large donation from a former resident in the city of Ogdensburg and NBA basketball coach Rick Carlisle during the COVID pandemic. I believe many of council were there the day of the presentation. And obviously that $1 million donation doesn't quite carry the weight that it did with construction materials and labor going forward and had a direct impact with COVID. I'd like to see $100,000 of this money go towards the Ogdensburg Boys and Girls Club for them to complete their project and finish it to the entity they want for the youth of the city of Ogdensburg going forward. I think it'd be a strong donation. I think it'd be well received, and it would surely benefit the city and the youth in this community.
Anyone else? Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will also be read by City Manager Stephen Zelli.
Resolution to amend the 2021 budget to include the receipt of CHIPS and touring route allocations. Whereas the city of Ogdensburg has been awarded CHIPS allocation in the amount of $397,809.40 with a 2020 cumulative rollover balance of $64,393.45. Pave New York allocation in the amount of $110,223.88 with a 2020 cumulative roller balance of $14,698.45. The extreme winter recovery allocation in the amount of $75,884.40 with a 2020 cumulative rollover balance of $9,864.97. And a touring route allocation in the amount of $117,903.82. Whereas these funds are to be used for the rehabilitation or reconstruction of local highways, and whereas $425,000 in capital construction funding was included in the 2021 budget. And whereas $365,778.37 was not included in the 2021 budget. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city comptroller is authorized to amend the 2020 budget to include the receipt of $365,778.37 into Consolidated Highway 8 account number A3501, Street Maintenance Capital Construction Expense account A5110.33.
I will introduce this item.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Glad to have the money. Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Reese,
Excuse me, John Whitehead.
So it starts out by saying that we were awarded CHIPS allocation. Is that for 2020 or 21?
So the 2020 was the rollover balance, Counselor, that we had sitting in there already.
Yes.
Please call the roll.
Yeah.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
approved.
Next item of business will also be read by City Manager Stephen Zeller.
A resolution to amend the 2021 library budget to reflect the transition of accounting responsibilities to the library. Whereas the city of Ogdensburg and the Ogdensburg Public Library established an agreement on revenue to be collected by the city and the expenditure the city comptroller's office to account for. Whereas the Ogdensburg Public Library will transition their accounting function to the responsibility of the library in 2022 based on the successful referendum for additional funding. And whereas the amounts in the 2021 budget are being amended based on the understanding between the city of Ogdensburg and the Ogdensburg Public Library Board of Directors during this transition period as follows. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the city comptroller is authorized to amend the 2021 budget as detailed above. Angela's on the line if there's any questions. Largely, this doesn't result in any loss of funding to the library. We are just shifting the funds that they are collecting there and not turning over to us to pay in expenses. We're just making sure our books balance as do theirs.
I'll introduce this item.
I'll second it.
Any,
Was there discussion with the Ogdensburg Library Board of Trustees?
Yes, Counselor.
What was their position?
Their position was concurrent, sir. Again, this is just a transition at their request, accounting functions that they're taking over, not passing money to us to pay some of their expenses. It just keeps our books accurate as well as theirs.
Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Based on the information I have, yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Stephen Zeller.
Resolution of City Council introducing a local law and providing for a public notice and public hearing. Be it resolved that a public hearing be held by the Ogdensburg City Council on proposed changes to the Ogdensburg Municipal Code to allow the city of Ogdensburg to preempt its share of the 3% sales tax collected by St. Lawrence County within the corporate city limits, as well as for automobile sales to city residents. Said public hearing to be held on August 23rd, 2021 at 6 p.m. in City Council Chambers, City Hall. And be it further resolved, the city clerk give notice of such public hearing by publication in the official newspaper at least 7 days before the hearing date of a notice setting forth the time and place and describing the proposed local law in summary form.
I'll introduce this item. Second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Who moved it? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Mayor moved it.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
approved.
Our last item of business will be read by Director of Planning and Development, Andrew Smith.
It's a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Bronze Contracting LLC for the demolition of 212 Fort Street. The request for bid was number 2021-003. Whereas the city of Ogdensburg solicited bids to perform demolition with asbestos-containing materials in place at 212 Fort Street. And whereas Bronze Contracting LLC of Renton, New York has proven their capacity and ability to perform the work to the city's satisfaction. Now therefore be it resolved that the city manager or his designee is authorized to enter into a contract with Bronze Contracting LLC for a sum not to exceed $278,800 for the demolition of 212 Fort Street. And be it further resolved that the tipping fees in the amount of $31.50 per ton will be payable to the Development Authority of the North Country for the Rodman landfill and in an amount not to exceed $95,000. And be it further resolved that the expenses for this project will be charged to the general fund.
I'll introduce this item.
I'll second. I'll second.
Any discussion?
Why aren't we looking at other sources? I mean, this is roughly $400,000 without any contingencies or whatever. I mean, who knows what can happen. It just seems like an awful lot of money to be using local dollars. I know we applied for an EPA grant. Is there a chance that we could improve on that and submit another EPA grant? Have we considered community development block grant for slums and blight? Is there going to be another round of land bank money coming out that we could look at for something of this? And then my other concern is that it doesn't really show the total budget. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what happens to the Blevins' building's wall? This is torn down on the Sperling building. You can see how they redid the whole wall with bricks and everything. When that building was torn down, is that a future cost that we're facing? And there aren't really, at least I haven't seen any plans. I guess we're paying a consultant to do some downtown redevelopment work, but I haven't seen anything. So, I mean, what's the cost of the improvements, once it's torn down? And I'm trying to, it's a serious matter. I mean, we're looking at a $1.5 million overrun on ready, another $500,000 on ready, and then we're looking at, $400,000 here. Then you got the wall, and I mean, we only collect. We only have so much money. That's why I'm so big on outside sources and some, and, I know the building's in bad condition, but it's been that way for a long time.
Yeah, I think in general, Counselor, I would just say this. We've, I think for several years, we've explored all the real viable grant opportunities that would come this way. The most prominent source of funding now, really the only source of good funding for straight demolition with no development afterwards, with no project on the horizon, with no economic impact showing, is the Restore New York program that has not been opened yet this year and may not open. I'm concerned that that building, as you toured it, it's in deteriorating condition. The estimates were quite a bit lower than what we had expected. I think to continue to let that building sit there and deteriorate for some of the reasons you just mentioned, damage to other people's property, we'll then have an emergency demolition order if it partly falls down that won't be under controlled circumstances. We won't get as good a pricing. We've generated some of this, we've generated surplus money. That's why I'm proposing this. As the comptroller briefed you last week, and there's some things in this city we have to be prepared, I think, to do on our own. If Restore New York opens up today, the first project that's on our list to go after would certainly be the former cheese plant. It's an enormous project that would most certainly be out of our financial means internal to the city to be able to handle. So I don't think this project is going to compete well. It didn't compete well at the EPA level. Those are a few grants given out across the country. the EPA certainly is looking for a lot of other conditions that don't exist on a straight demo. So I feel like, again, council can pass on this. We have the money. It is a blight in our community. It is a risk to the city right now. It is a risk to the adjacent property owners you mentioned. I do not know what we will uncover once we peel that back. Certainly, you can speculate. It'll look unfinished or maybe not. I don't know. And we will have to look at that to see if there's liability from the city there. I don't believe that the tearing down of our old bladed building and exposing a less than desirous aesthetic on a neighbor's building puts the city at responsibility for doing that necessarily. So I think we've got to look at that. My greater concern is our building causing damage to their building? We've done our best to secure the building to keep people from getting in, but as we know from the neighbors, people are getting in. It's only a matter of time before somebody sets that building on fire. And then again, we'll have it down then, but it'll be only damage to the building next door. So staff's recommendation is we do this. The costs are now. Eric, can we get order in the room, please? So staff's recommendation is to do that. Again, I leave it to council to determine, is this a high enough risk in which to expend funds? We have the money. I think it is the right time. We've got the right price to get it down and improve the aesthetic of that area.
Yeah, every community has blighted buildings that are dangerous. Schenectady's using community development block grant money to tear theirs down, I just read. So I wish we would have put more effort into it, and I'd rather not spend the local monies on that. So that's kind of what my expectation is of staff moving forward, whether it's the wall or the improvements to the area that you're tearing the building down, or the cheese plant or Diamond or whatever, because, you know, there's only so much money, and that money could be used for a multitude of other things, such as paying down the debt to the county that we inherited. So
I agree. We have a lot of grant requests out there. They're not all going to get funded. We have to be prepared at some point to recognize our need is far and away greater than the grant money we're going to bring in.
Mayor, I just wanted to say, one of the specific questions that Councilor Reich asked about was EPA applications. The city did apply 2 times for an EPA cleanup grant for this particular project. The second time we submitted an application, we just completed our debriefing. We got a nearly perfect score on our application. So can we do better? Yes, we can get a perfect score, but it's still unlikely that this project will get funded, given that it, as far as we know, only has asbestos contamination. EPA does fund asbestos abatement projects, but they really focus most of their attention on petroleum contamination, volatile organic compounds, PCBs, contaminants that are much more hazardous. So
I wouldn't have applied to EPA, but once again, it's community development block grant that is the main source of revenue for most communities when it comes to housing, economic development, slums and blight. And that's what we really need to focus on.
Well,
the
city is the one that is culpable, because we let 10 years go by or more after we took possession, didn't do anything with it, didn't do anything with the roof, didn't try to maintain it. At the beginning, it was like, can we rehab this place? Can we make it better? And I was all for that. And then I got in there and looked. The 3rd floor is in the basement. It's imploded already. The walls are coming in. The roof is going to be even worse after another winter. It's not just an eyesore. It's a genuine hazard that at the beginning they said it was going to be $800,000 to tear it down. Well, it's under $3 million. There's some more cost of fixing the other buildings, but I don't think you're ever going to get a price or somebody come in here for less than $300,000 to tear down a building that size. And I mean, how are we going to wait another 15 years or another 10 years or even 5 years? so we can stand out on the corner with a tin can asking for money again, time after time. You run out of times where people want to give you money, and sometimes you got to fix your own house. And when you didn't do it, sooner or later, you got to tear it down. And that's where we're at. So it needs to go.
Mike, did you have something to say?
Yes, I just want to follow up on Councilor Fisher's comments. I tend to agree. You know, it's been a liability forever. God forbid something happens, and as he mentioned, the third floor is in the basement. We get a couple of kids straggling in through there. Floor comes down on top of them. Who's liable? We are. For $300K to get rid of that blighted building, I'm all in favor of it. To compare us to Schenectady and blighted properties is not a fair analogy. I'm familiar with Schenectady. I'm familiar with their government. And, you know, for us to be even compared to what they've had to deal with and continue to deal with is not a fair analysis. They had many blocks, large areas, as the city manager addressed. The larger pieces of blighted property are going to be where the substantial funding comes from. This needs to be done. It needs to come down, and the sooner the better.
Then the point is, they didn't use their own money. They used somebody else's money. That's
because they had a much bigger community, a much bigger population, a much bigger government, and they had a much bigger relationship, a much better relationship with state representatives than we'll ever dream of having at this point.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
approved.
And this brings it to old business. And we will begin with city manager Stephen Kelly.
Andrea is going to give you just a quick overview on the completion of the CFA process for the year.
So I mentioned earlier, so sorry, I don't mean to be redundant, but we did submit a series of CFA applications, one of which was for the pavilion in Morissette Park. So we submitted an application for $500,000 for the pavilion through New York State Parks. We also submitted an application through the WQIP program through DEC for our Main Street pump station. And we also submitted an application through Department of State for funding to do additional environmental site assessment work on brownfield properties that are currently owned by the city of Ogdensburg, specifically phase 2 investigations, which are subsurface investigations of soil and water to determine the extent of contamination on various properties, including the cheese factory and the Shade Roller property, just to name a couple. So those were all submitted we also submitted a CDBG application seeking preliminary engineering funding for the design and engineering associated with the reconstruction of East David Street. And so those 4 applications were submitted by the deadline of July 30th to New York State, and we would expect those to be announced in December of this year. So those are all, anything that would be funded would be a 2022 project. We also received our award announcement today that we have been the recipient of Northern Border Regional Commission funding in the amount of $1 million for the Northern Border, or for the Main Street pump station. So it's great news. So for anybody that's paying attention, the state agencies, you can just update our CFA application to no longer pending, but accepted and awarded. So we did apply for the maximum amount of matching funds through the CFA, which was $720,000. If we are successful with that, the city will have an $80,000 match on a $1.8 million project. So that's great news right now. We're still awaiting awards on the Lafayette Street Bridge, which was submitted through the New York State New York Bridge project. Those are often announced in the fall, so we're cautiously optimistic, although those are pretty challenging to get. We are wrapping up the work that we have been doing on that project with the SAM grant that we received, which is actually a multimodal grant through Department of Transportation right now, which we received with assistance from former Assemblywoman Addie Jenny. So we appreciate her support on that and the $375,000 that helped with the concrete repairs for the bridge. Thanks.
Excuse me, just nothing substantial to report on this topic tonight. Expect some movement from the county. I provided council the update last week. We've sent the county our priorities and our transition plan for transitioning the property tax collection and foreclosure process to them as of the first of the year. I'll wait their response tonight.
What years are you referring to?
It'd be effective for 2022, Councilor. Last item on mine is the City Beach update. So we submitted the last samples last week. Our engineer we met with today. We believe we've met all the conditions that were sent in the letter, certainly all the physical conditions. Just a matter now of submitting our last samples, which we've done. And so he'll talk with the state hopefully by Wednesday, and we can get a final word from the state on an opening or closure. So one of the things here that the good news in all of our process here is with all the samples, the state worked with us to ensure that we were taking samples a lot of different depths of locations. We've cleared all the pipes, all the issues that were brought to our attention of anything contaminants or anything coming from those, the sources where they all come from. And then ultimately, what we believe is keeping some of our readings high is the presence of goose droppings. So the good news for us is we know that, and so our mitigation plan to be able to keep moving the geese along from the areas that we would be normally sampling will be good. So I think we've met all the physical requirements and characteristics, the thing the state asked for, and if we're successful in getting authorization, I foresee us continuing the sampling throughout the remainder of the good weather, even after the beach. Weather would be closed. That way we establish a significant track record of samples and testing, things that the state can document. And then immediately after the ice goes out, doing the same, so that we've got that long, lengthy number of tests in which for the state to evaluate. So Wednesday or Thursday, I'll provide an update to council on what we hear from the Department of Health.
Can we get the test results that we've asked for from the beginning of this endeavor for the City Beach up until the last ones?
Yes, Councilor, I asked the engineer today to put together all the reports in a PDF form so we can email it to you and anyone else that requests it.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any old business? Does anyone have any new business?
Yes, I do. I briefly mentioned it in the past resolution there with the COVID stimulus money that came to the city. And I'd like to know, recognizing some of the avenues in which that money can be dispersed. Again, I'd like to basically double down on some of the requests going forward to modify or enhance the skateboard park once a new location is addressed. If not, a new location, an enhancement to the skateboard park, and to move along a donation to the Ogdensburg Boys and Girls Club. Very, very well-run, obviously, organization and nonprofit, one that significantly suffered from the COVID pandemic. And I'd like to see us move forward with that. Any thoughts on that with council?
We'll be discussing all kinds of stuff, and coming to a consensus point.
Mayor, what the comptroller and I are working on, we've prepared a list of all the organizations, small businesses, charitable, nonprofits, et cetera. The council normally provides money to those that have requested. So we'll send all that to council this week, what we currently have. I want to ensure that we have all the ideas or all the places that council wants to put it. I'll resend everybody the parameters and the criteria again in which the money can be used for. Again, as we explained at the last meeting, it's pretty tight. But I think by way of supporting nonprofits, charitable organizations, small businesses, it's the area we have the greatest latitude to be able to provide assistance. So I'll send you the list we have, our recommendations for fund disbursement, and then let council tell us from there how to send the numbers.
This brings us to items for discussion. Stephen Kelly.
So I just I wanted to let you all know, as I sent you the email, the 2020 DRI process, downtown redevelopment program is open. It is a long, lengthy, and rigorous process where the region will make a recommendation whether one community gets 20 million or two communities get 10 million. So I just wanted to let council know that we've looked at all that. It's something that the city director of planning and development is confident she can get through the process, but it has to start immediately. I just was looking for any thoughts from council, just to make sure we're clear on what this money can use for. This is predominantly planning money. It's not brick and mortar money. So if the city gets 10 million or 20 million, we're not building anything with it. It is to be able to plan, forecast, and prepare projects to ultimately be used. For instance, this year during the CFA process, we'd already have plans ready, approved on the shelf with estimated dollar amounts on them. So just wanted to let council know it's out there. If there was some reason you didn't think we should be working towards that this year, again, it is competitive. I think we've got local communities that have received it recently that I think we can visit, talk to, see what's made them successful, and then try to tailor our application. Again, very competitive process, but certainly significant money to go towards planning for the future. And again, I think it's an opportunity to get a significant amount of money pumped into planning. And while that's not going to be appealing to a lot of people talking about more planning, one of the keys when we apply for these budget or these grant processes, the fuse is fairly short on these. It's because they're not expecting you from the time they open the period for application to incept the project, conceptualize it, get it together, et cetera. They're expecting you to have these projects ready to go. The open period is simply for application for the information you have. So again, this would be significant. Instead of us doing one or two projects a year, we could certainly do a lot of planning and preparation for things that need to be done in the future. These aren't grants that specifically are for next year's projects, the year after. These are also looking at how do we cover down on things that will happen 5, 10, 15, and 20 years from now. So I put it down for discussion. I want council to know we're aware and if there was any comments.
Need a lot of private sector concepts and ideas in order to be competitive. Kind of like the Frarys on the other side of the Oswegatchie, if they could be included. Do they have a building permit yet for what they did with the front of is that okay to?
Building permit is not required, council.
Pardon me?
It was not required. A building permit was not required.
No, not required. Okay. No, but you really need a lot of private sector investment. So you have to involve a lot of people and a lot of downtown people, depending on how big the area is and everything. But yeah.
Anyone else for discussion?
The former St. Joe's property, Steve Fisher brought that up. He hadn't forgotten about that, I'm sure.
Nope, in the pipeline to bring to. Along with, I believe you had mentioned to me a request for consideration of a paper street, and it's next in our queue as well.
And the Garnes property, is that not surplus, or is that that's the across from the old Holiday Inn on.
Correct. I think we talked previous council. We're holding on that just for the moment till we get the project for the pump station designed. I don't want to have to get it right away from a private landowner to tear up a good portion of that to put in the new pump station that'll happen there on Main Street. We expect there's a lot of underground issues there, old canal system running through there. So I'm just being a little cautious with moving forward on that right away. Seeing what, again, the plan will be for that entire area if we get the money down for the cheese plant. But at the moment, I don't want to give up that small strip of land at the moment until we get that pump station figured out.
And then the Lafayette Street Bridge, the way the engineer described it to me was that The ceiling on top is bad on it. I think that's what they started to work on when it's closed. But that's what causes the issue. The water gets in and then, the concrete deteriorates. So I didn't know if we were fixing that before winter and the rest of it, or just a question.
Yeah, so we're working on, as we talked before, Shane, we're working on those first two spans, but we've had lengthy conversation about what's causing the problem. But I'll let Shane give you more details.
They have completed the seal on the first two spans. Actually, the contractor told us what they use, and we might try to finish sealing it ourselves.
Great.
I think it'd be a minute amount of money, so the sealing isn't overly expensive. It's just time consuming. We gotta make sure you get it cleaned properly.
Great, Shane, thanks. Got all kinds of stuff, but that's probably enough for tonight.
And this brings us to citizen participation. We'd like to speak in person, come up to the podium, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, I'm Ann Lockwood. I'd like to address, I don't know who came up with the decision, or they want to do it to reduce city police. What do you guys think? Do you not realize we have a drug problem in this town? Do you read the papers? Do you watch the TV? Not only do you have drugs, you've got weapons. Look at the burglaries. How many people have been pulled over with drugs? The drug raids. A year ago, U.S. Marshals kicked in the door and there was a wanted murderer in New York City. You're putting our police officers, we have now, if you cut that board, you're putting them in danger. And you want to cut the nice staff. Maybe I'm wrong, but most burglars kind of go in the dark so they're not seen. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. What are you thinking? I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. One of these officers, it's not a matter of if they get hurt. It's a matter of when. Instead of taking from these guys, you should be giving them more money so they can clean up the streets in Ogdensburg. Years ago, you had Tigers and Coke the whole 9 yards. Okay, now you got ice. These fools are awake for 10, 12 days. And these guys have got to go when they arrest them. They're all tweaked out. Somebody is going to get hurt. Somebody is going to get killed. And any one of you guys that votes to go along with this, see, you are, I'm sure you were put in a position where you were thankful that you had other officers there to cover your back. Don't you think these guys don't deserve the same thing? Don't cut these guys. There's too much going on in this town. The drugs, look in the paper. Or on NorthCountryNow.com. Used needles all over. Go on the rescue squad. What they put in here. The ODs, the drug deaths. The deaths in this town from drugs. We never saw this crap years ago. No, because now you got the gangs. Now you got the whole 9 yards. And you guys want to cut these guys down to 15? What are you thinking?
I would just like to double down on the recreation that the city needs. One with the skateboard park, and two, just to appeal to the youth. I feel like a lot of the things that you guys do as a council appeal to the city, the more of the adults in the city, and I feel like even in my generation, a lot of people have left the city, and that's sad to see because it's a beautiful area. It's a whole lot safer than a whole lot of major cities, and I just feel that we're losing our young people because there's nothing active to do in the city. Not much, anyways, aside from tennis and pickleball. And I would just like to say that an indoor skate park might be better to put money towards, especially seeing as you guys put, what was it, $50,000 toward the beach that no one's using, that you said was going to be open in July. You said it was going to be open this month, and still nothing. Also, just like to leave off on, make sure you bring your bug spray, because mosquitoes down there, they're real bad.
Good evening, I'm Maureen Brashaw. Basically, I'm here for an update, if I can get one, on Mr. Fisher's sexual harassment charge with the library. What's the status on that? Can we get a status on that? I believe you received a list from the library board of things to implement. Has that been done yet? That look is priceless, Steve, priceless. Can we get an update? Obviously, you all know that the governor's in trouble because this is a serious matter. So why don't you all take it seriously? Nothing, huh? Can I get an update on that at the next meeting? I'm asking for an update from the city manager. I would like to get an update from the city manager on this case, on this issue. No? Nobody?
We heard your request.
What's that?
We heard your request. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to keep asking for it.
Just got a couple more things. While we're here, and I did suggest maybe that you guys talk to the youth and the guys that use the park. You got them sitting right there. An invitation tonight to, make sure that you ask them to invite them to maybe one of your meetings. There they are. I'm sure they'd be willing to do it. No? Can I just ask one question? If it wasn't for the skateboard park, I was gonna come down here and stand at the podium and just look at you. What you doing?
Right.
Because that's what you do to us. I don't know where you people got the idea that no answer is a good answer. Are you serious? Do you not hear people laughing back there? Do you not hear it? That's a yes or no question. That's not that simple question. Were you all trained not to say anything? Seriously, guys. Seriously. This is what you're gonna do? Yes or no? This is what you're gonna do?
The purpose of a city council meeting is to conduct the business of the city council and to get elected so that you can debate and discuss it amongst yourself. And then we ask for participation and input from the citizens, but it's not an interactive thing.
Oh, so there's no interaction with the people that.
That's the way it's written in our rules.
I'm sorry. I thought because when the people paid you, you could interact with them.
You can, you can call us anytime and talk to us.
No. I mean in person.
Yeah. From my perspective, I listened to everything you said. I mean,
Well, yes, but I'm asking simple yes or no questions. And I'm not getting a yes or no. I'm just getting stared at.
Right.
Which I thought really wasn't true. I thought maybe my TV had glitched and I wasn't hearing it. That's why I came, just to check it out. And by the way, Mr. Reach, you weren't worried about the $20,000.
Good investment.
Most of us in this room do not need an education on civics and how this council runs. Many of the questions that are asked at the beginning of the meeting are never addressed, and each and every counselor has an option of addressing us about those. And it has been done in the past. It's called new business. It's called items for discussion. So at this point, with citizen participation, no, there isn't any opportunity for that. But any counselor and every counselor should listen to the citizens of this city, and they should be addressing these questions. They're legitimate, and we deserve the answers. Thank you.
Thanks for hearing me again. I just want to say that tonight was very educational. I mean, we are encouraged to bring solutions, and I think we had several people who brought the kinds of suggestions and solutions that we need, the people who are actually involved in the activities that are going on. It was interesting for me. They showed caring, very supportive, and they were inclusive. And when I came up here and talked about the skate park, I said that aesthetically it looked good, but I said that I wasn't a skater, and this is what we need, is not only for the skate park, which thank you guys for what you did, but for anything that's going on. We have some great ideas of people who are in the know, who are experienced. And this kind of information input should be welcomed and actually sought as you assess for different things that you do with the taxpayers' money, and not only with our money, but that change our city one way or another. And also, you said you listened to everything we said. Sometimes you're writing or drawing pictures or looking down or something. I don't know what you're doing, but I would hope that you would show more eye contact, more. I mean, I know you take notes as you go along too, so do I. But, more eye contact or more appreciation for things, whether or not you agree with what's being said. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Lafayette Street, 36-year veteran from the police department, retired as a chief for 9 years. I'd like to say, at least tonight, I did see some positive things. I agree with Councilor Fisher in regards to the improvements to Morissette Park. That children's playground is a key area. I watched a lot of school trips go down there. A lot of people use it. It'll get used a lot more than the beach, even though I'd like to see a beach. But it will be used a lot more, along with the skateboard park. It can be used not just a couple of months out of the year. I was on the department when the skateboarders first came to the council and made a presentation in regards to wanting a skateboard park. And it was kind of in response to complaints we had of kids skateboarding in the streets and traffic, had some accidents, skateboarding on private property and parking lots, some of the local businesses and so forth. They gave a heck of a good presentation, and the city backed them on it. And they put the skateboard park down there with their input, and they did a good job. It should have been maintained better. I wasn't aware that it was in disarray over the last 10, 15 years. It should have been taken care of, I believe. Now, in regards to the police department, there's the one place that I disagree with you all. Steve Fisher and I worked a lot of hours, a lot of cases in regards to narcotics. I was hired in 1980. Our department started a proactive anti-narcotics team effort back in the mid-80s. And in the mid-90s, we had a cry from the public, from the CADE groups, Citizens Against Illegal Drugs, and a number of other citizens We had a meeting here at City Hall, and they wanted a full-time narcotics officer. They also wanted a full-time juvenile officer. And that it went into having a school resource officer as well. There was a call for it then, there was a need for it then, there's a need for it now. And I can't believe that Steve Fisher wholeheartedly would agree that reducing our forces by 10 or 15, down to 10 or 15, 16 people is going to put our community and the citizens in a safer position in this area. He knows himself that on many occasions when we're working, the sheriff's department has maybe 2 people covering the entire county. I don't think that there's enough revenue going on behalf of the city to have them hire 20 more guys so that they can concentrate on the 10 to 15,000 complaints we have every year here. And you know it. So as far as reducing our forces, I'm totally against it. I think you're making a huge mistake.
If anyone's attending remotely and would like to speak, raise hand.
The first individual is registered as Penny Sharrow, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears your line is open.
Okay, I've got a couple questions. First of all, in regards to the city beach, I know I'm not going to get an answer, but in regards to the goose poop, as we refer to it, is the health department telling you it's definitively geese? Because I ran the beach for 6 years. We never had a geese problem. Perhaps the population has increased. Could be, I don't know. But I don't think blaming it on the geese is actually fair. I just think that I would love to have a beach in this town, and I've always wanted one since the 70s when I was working down there. And I said that this is a big rush job. You've got 2 weeks left. School starts, sports start. Lifeguards are going to be pretty slim, and I think maybe someone could have asked me that. I do have them scheduled for the pool, but the beach is a different entity. I don't know, whatever you get from the Department of Health, I'd like to see if it definitely says it's the geese poop that's causing the issue. Easy to blame an animal. And in regards to the police, we lost an SRO officer. Money maybe from the beach could be put towards giving us an SRO officer again, since the school paid for it, and he got pulled out of school and back out on the streets last year just randomly, saying that he needed to be out there to monitor the kids and things like that. He had a great relationship with the kids, and we lost him in the process. So we've lost a good officer. Perhaps money could be put towards sending him towards the school, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the school pays for the SRO officer. And it's a big, big thing out of school. The kids need him out there. They need to see the respect. The police need the respect again, and it starts at an early age. So I think our priorities are pretty mixed up here, and that's my opinion. And I know it's not worth much to maybe any of you people there, but I think the beach this year you've been throwing good money after bad, because you need to find a different spot, and you need to research things a little bit more thoroughly. Lovely idea, don't get me wrong, but that is not the place where you want it. It's just my thought. Thank you. And I'd like to know if that's definitely the goose poop. So if you can bring that out in your when you get your results, I'd like to see Department of Health actually say that. Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Brian Mitchell, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears your line is open.
Good evening. My name is Brian Mitchell. I'm a longtime listener. I'm just calling in because I know the 4 are looking for community help. I'd be happy to be on a community group that we could start a fundraiser to name Pickle Park, the Skelly Pickle Park. So if anybody's willing to take me up on that, I'd be happy to start a fundraiser to name it after Mr. Skelly. Thanks. Bye.
I do not see any other hands raised.
We do not have a need for executive session, so I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yes,
Second.
second. All in favor? Aye.